It's been a minute since I've made one of these. Well, I guess it means it's time to celebrate with a celebratory creature. But stick around to the end of the video because I have a little surprise for all of you. Hello, I'm Mercury, and welcome to me making random creatures, cause why not? But let's get into generating our random things for our random creature first. And once again, like most of the creatures in my videos, this one is free to use with credit. So let's generate our stuff. First up on our generating journey, we have random mythological creature, it seems like. We haven't done that in quite a minute. I mean, we haven't done this entire series in a minute, but what do we got next? We got my second favorite thing on here, 2 to 3 features. This is going to be fun. I felt as a lot of my creatures have been more realistic recently, even though they have been mainly and only dragons. So I hope we get something cool. And our hopefully cool thing shall be Boogeyman, Chupacabra, or Vampire. I'm leaning to Chupacabra or Vampire right now, but let's see what features we got to decide from. I added 6 new features to my wheel, so I wonder if any of you can find out what's different. But our first feature shall be... is that magical absorption. That's cool, and definitely leaning more fantasy, which is what I asked for. Now that we only need one more thing, this is 2 to 3 after all, so our last feature shall be... hypnosis. How fun! It's time for our scheduled research section. So I ended up going with Vampire because I felt Vampire and magical absorption go really well together, mainly because of what I've already developed in the lore in Fantasticus. A lot of magical energy is stored within the blood, so vampires already take in a lot of magic. Sometimes things just work out, and this is one of those things. Just a heads up, I will talk a lot about death, corpses, and serious illnesses for the next long while. If you're sensitive, then please skip to the next chapter, where I'll talk about the research I found out about vampires. So, vampires are interesting to talk about because they actually don't have much mythology around them. Like, there's a whole bunch of lore, but not necessarily mythology, and it's hard to necessarily pinpoint where they originate. And we only really get the tales of Dracula, even though it is theorized to have existed a lot longer than before then, but it's really hard to find out that stuff. And while modern interpretations are really good and useful, I mean, that's what I'm doing here. Sometimes they completely mess up the legends. I mean, that's what they did with Tiamat. It's okay, my baby girl, I know what you are. So, what's a vampire? A vampire is an undead creature known for their fanged teeth and the sucking of blood from its victims. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Do you know how many undead creatures there are? Undead creatures that eat you, specifically? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what a vampire was. Europeans were scared of all of these undead creatures, and there were very little distinction between all of them. But let's talk about the real vampire here. Diseases. In other words, the part of the research I actually know stuff about. So believe it or not, doctors are important. Same with medical sciences. The best way to get said medical knowledge was through illegal activities. Specifically, a legal activity called body snatching. But without the snatching of bodies, we wouldn't have half the medical knowledge we have today, and it would even have hindered the art community. But the main thing that we gotta know from these body snatchers and the medical sciences who studied on these stolen bodies is that we learned a lot about how diseases worked and developed vaccines because of them. And without vaccines, a lot of people died. And these diseases most likely one of the major reasons for all the stories of undead. For example, the consumption, aka what we now call tuberculosis. Now, consumption is quite a tricky situation. It's a very serious illness that impacts the lungs specifically. It passes through coughing or talking or anything that allows tiny water droplets to be potentially breathed in by another. So it's spread very easily and has 3 different stages which have no pattern in when they will advance, making some people seem fine, then they die from the disease one night, or others taking months or even years to progress to the next stage of the consumption. And with such rapid spreading and unpredictability, the disease must be caused by only one thing. Now tell me, is it A, vampires, B, evil spirits, C, witchcraft? Well, ding ding, you're correct. It's a trick question, it's all of them. The big scared of all things considered evil, aka not Catholic at the time. So obviously it's your dead relatives coming back to hunt and kill you, or a witch cursing your bloodline, or an evil undead bloodsucker that is likely also your dead family member, but not always. I know, have fun. Also, having tuberculosis a few years after this time was considered kinda hot. I'm not getting much into it, just check my links. I have one talking about it, it's fascinating. So that was a lot of research, but are you ready to do more? To be fair, there isn't much more, because both these traits are inherently magical traits, so I don't need to talk about the actual study of animals. So, magical absorption, I interpret this in 2 ways. One, they take magic to sling it back. I've already had this ability seen with the Seafoam lungs, specifically in this video. The second way, which is second way I've used it is in another creature that I can't share right now because of reasons, where they take others' magical power for their own. In other words, a magical creature that can't produce its own magic, so it must consume the magic of others to live. Which I am leaning to do more of the second trait. While this creature I'm thinking would produce its own magic, they still take the magic of others for added benefits, rather than immediately slinging it back. So the next trait I'll talk about is hypnosis. There are some things to research here. According to the Oxford Dictionary, hypnosis is the induction of state of consciousness in which a person loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direct. Hypnosis was often seen as a magic sorcery type thing, but more often seen in medicine specifically, and it is still used in a type of therapy today. It was said it would help you be able to remember suppressed memories, and while it doesn't have a 0% success rate, it still is considered pseudoscience. This can partly be accredited to the fact that it doesn't work on everything. It's kind of like a sugar pill. It doesn't have any real medicine, but if you believe it works, it could trick your brain into making you feel better. So if you don't believe that hypnosis is real, so hypnotherapy doesn't work, then it probably won't help you. So what does hypnosis mean in my fantasy concept? Well, you take the definition of hypnosis and make it far less consensual. Because now it's magic, and it works, but is way more likely and easily to be used maliciously. Well, so how do these 3 things, from the vampire to hypnosis and magical absorption, affect my creature? So I will admit, I already had a very loose creature idea I made months ago, which I was kinda using to establish the lore for that creature to be in my reference sheet for this reference sheet. But my rules, so let me talk a bit about the creature. I ended up naming it Blink. Now, Blink sounds like an interesting name for the creature. However, it is not a creature native to the mortal realm, aka it's in another realm. And being a creature that isn't native to the mortal realm, it means that it is native to another. Therefore, it follows different laws of nature. The place that this one comes from is specifically known as the In-Between, because it's between all the other realms. A place where gravity is more like the weather, and the laws of science rarely count. Things here go through a lot, so a lot have adapted to survive more than any creature has ever seen in the mortal. Some of these adaptations have included senses, or even skin that leaks and is covered in acid. All creatures in this realm are almost unknown to any form of science, because if you aren't built for that environment, you die. And if you aren't built for it, you at least need a guide. And how many creatures from that world that can interact with humans or other humanoid creatures and have access to the mortal and is willing to help is slim to none. And because of that, their population sizes are unknown, their relationship with other species is mostly unknown, and they don't have a scientific name. They barely have a name at all, in fact. Depending on where it lives, its name changes frequently. Blink was chosen for this creature shape because of, well, you blink and they're gone. And now, well, there is a vast list of what we don't know about the blink. Let's talk about the few things that we do. The blink is a carnivorous creature that primarily feeds on blood like vampire bats. Now, where that gets strange is they have sharp teeth that pierce skin, but their tongue is like that of a butterfly's proboscis and works like a straw. Once the skin is pierced, they use their tongue to suck their victims near dry. Now, the blink is a smart creature, and they actually live quite close to societies. The blink is a lone hunter. What they do with this is that they break into the houses of people and lurk there for quite some time, slowly, bit by bit, making their victims feel more and more exhausted as their blood is slowly drained. Victims of the blink have described feeling like they are hallucinating, seeing things that aren't there, and almost wanting to bite other people. Now that sounds completely absurd if it was in any other place. Creatures in the mortal usually like to take in magical energy around them, while creatures in the in-between almost seem to repulse that energy, mainly because there's such a high quantity of magic in the air as well as in their body. It kind of bounces off of them, like temperature does to other creatures. Because of this behavior with magical energy, it is believed that it either has something to do with the magic in the air and how two creatures from different realms interact with each other, specifically the magic where the places where the blink inhabits, or it has to do with it shedding some of its own magic, or it very may likely be a combination of both. But at the same time, it could be neither and just be hysteria from the blood loss. So if you're feeling more tired than usual and it keeps getting worse day after day, please find a home inspector that is qualified to look out for a blink. Now, because we shouldn't completely disqualify this, though it happens less often, this is what you should do if you encounter a blink in the wild. Blinks are lazy. They don't like to move much to get their food because usually they don't have to. That means run away immediately. They are fast, they will likely catch up to you, but if you keep running and they end up thinking that you're too much trouble and not worth catching, you is the only way you are to survive this thing without successfully killing it. And while blinks are small in size, that only serves them to be harder to hit. So, that's the blink, and honestly, I'm excited to be able to start talking about the creatures from other realms, and while that in itself is a surprise, I've got another gift for you. If you got Discord or you haven't gotten it yet, but you're thinking about it, well then let me talk to you about my Discord server. Yes, I'm pretty small, and I doubt many people would join for a long time, but hey, that's all the more reason to join now. I would be more likely to see your messages, and I have a collection of all my creatures and any other extra stuff I don't do on YouTube. As well as you get to see a lot of my personal artwork that I keep forgetting to post to Tumblr. In my Discord server, you would be able to vote on polls, on future video ideas, leave suggestions on what you want me to do next. I'm even planning to host collabs and other videos on there that you viewers may participate in. You also get a lot of extra links and information to my fantasy world that's all in one neat place. And with that, I bid you adieu. Good night, good day, and don't let the blinks get ya.